Talking with Kathy Janzen this morning. She is the author of Waging War from Your Knees, Armed with Prayer and Sacred Fire. She is a devoted wife, mother, and daughter of the King of Kings. Through her writing, speaking, and teaching, she empowers women to pray with authority, break cycles of generational trauma, and cultivate a deeper, more intimate faith in Jesus. Kathy now brings her message of redemption into fiction with Blood Red, Pure White, a tender and honest portrayal of trauma, grace, and the slow sacred journey toward healing through faith in Christ. Kathy lives in southern Alberta, Canada, with her husband Sheldon. They treasure the time they spend with their children and grandchildren. You can connect with her on Instagram and YouTube at Kathy J. Jansen.
Yes.
So, so let's dive right in.
Yes.
Tell us about your books.
Yeah. Um, so Blood Red, Pure White. This is the proof copy.
Okay.
Juggling.
Yeah,
The
I'm familiar with
the
that.
print ones aren't in yet. Kudos to me for trying to order them at Christmas.
Right?
But so Blood Red, Pure White comes out today on Amazon. I'm super excited. This is my first fiction book out there, but it really fits in with the writing I'm already doing. Waging War from Your Knees came out 2023, and that's about a mother fighting for her kids, fighting against the millions of mistakes that I made and how my kids were hurting from that and how God helped me heal from that. And Blood Red, Pure White is sort of the fictional journey. And so much of Amy is my story. Um, and the journey that I went on to receive healing for the things that happened in my life. Of course, in book form, I'm condensing it to high school years. It took me a tad bit longer to get there. But the same journey to go through. And so I had always had this heart that I would write fiction for mothers and daughters.
Mhm.
Because when my daughter was a teen, I gave her Francine Rivers, The Atonement Child. And it gave me a way to talk about abortion with my daughter that wasn't like, let's sit down and have a talk about abortion.
Yeah,
It was very much I could talk about it, what the characters went through, and did you notice she said that? And all of a sudden, this became a free-flowing a conversation, and both as we worked through the book and then after, and so much so that my daughter even passed that book along to some of her friends. And so I
Mhm.
saw this as just a huge tool for mothers to talk about some really difficult topics with their daughters at a time when their daughters are just thinking their moms just aren't cool.
Right.
So that was really the heart behind Blood Red, Pure White. Uh, and yeah, I spent so many years working in high schools, working with troubled teens, and seeing the great weight that they carry.
Yeah.
It floors me. These kids show up for school every day, put in the 8 hours there at school, go home. Sometimes they don't come back with homework done, but sometimes homework's done, right? And they show up. And some of these kids come out of terribly abusive home lives. Some of them haven't eaten. They're going through these huge traumas, and we're trying to teach them algebra. Like just
Right. Yeah.
the absolute absurdity of it really hit me when I was working in high schools, and just the strength. And so I wanted to just showcase the strength of these teens, that they every day got up and dealt with adult things that most adults would go, I'm off on disability, I'm struggling with depression, I can't work right now.
Yeah.
And yet these teens get up every single day and they show up to school. And so it was kind of all of those things coming together that made me realize I wanted to write at a young adult level. I wanted to write YA books.
Mhm. Well, I have to say that you really um, handled that high school culture magnificently in this book because
Thank you.
it really is a very unique culture. That high
Mhm.
school, it's such a microcosm of society, that I think we often just turn a blind eye to. We just think, okay, this is just a rite of passage, but it really is very complicated and can be very traumatic and so life-changing for the good or not
Yeah.
for teenagers. And walking through that as a parent of teens was really a hard thing for me personally. I
Mhm.
had a hard time with those teenage years, and I really didn't know how to handle that high school culture. But you did such a great job of really bringing in the perspective of the teens. And that's going to accomplish your mission of opening that conversation, those conversations between parents and their children, whether it's mother and daughter or not. It's such a it- fiction can be such a powerful tool for
Yeah.
opening up conversation. So
Yeah.
that's really encouraging. And
Yeah.
so in A Blood Red, Pure White, you tackle some really, really um, significantly traumatic and uh, difficult things, to put it mildly.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, are you feeling like this? What would be the age range that you would recommend for this this book?
Yes, definitely high school. I think 16 and above.
16.
But then, like I guess if you've got a teen girl who's already going to parties and those types of things at 14, you could make a judgment call there. But there are some, like we do in the book, date rape is handled. I try to do it very respectfully. It's as much a closed door romance as I could do while handling that material, while really showcasing Amy's emotional journey through it. You don't
Right,
get to see the graphics of it, but you are in there with her emotional journey. So that is very difficult ground to navigate to keep it at a young adult reader level,
right.
but to truly honestly handle the topic well, you can't be too, oh, this just happened to me last night. Like you
Hmm.
need to show something. So I try to very carefully keep that just as her emotional journey, not the graphics of what she went
Right,
through.
right,
Um, but also understanding that this is sacred ground and that many of the mothers that would read the book will have been through this journey too. And so I wanted to honor that I wasn't going to gloss over it. I wasn't going to make it pretty, but that I was going
right.
to try and keep it for that a young, 16-year-old girl could read with some guidance from her mother as to the topic and how to handle it and those types of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you did a beautiful job with it, and not only with Amy's character, but also with her friends,
Yeah.
and how they handled what she went through.
Yes.
Um, and and that was a such an endearing part of the story for me.
Yeah, her little tribe.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to be a spoiler, so I'll just
Yep.
leave that there. But the other
Yeah.
thing that I thought, you know, I, I really admire you for taking this part on too, is how her mother um, handled or didn't handle
Yeah.
what had happened to her daughter, which, from a mother's perspective, you can just think, oh my goodness, what would I do? How would I cope? Especially not having a relationship with the Lord, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's there's the rub.
Yeah.
So it. I thought that the mother's character, while she is really a very minor character in the story, um, what she went through and how you handled that was also really beautifully done and so relatable, I think, for a lot of people. They're going to turn to something that they're familiar with if they're not familiar with the Lord. So,
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I think I had written nonfiction books prior to writing Blood Red, Pure White. And it's not like I went into writing fiction and thinking, oh yeah, this will be easy. But the layers to fiction are so much more complicated to write because you're really telling Amy's story, but then all the other characters are telling Amy's story through their perspective, through their lens, right? And so to
yes.
them, it looks different. To them, they interpret her behavior differently. And then she's interpreting their behavior and making assumptions about it, but it's not really that way. So that's just the beauty of fiction, but also the hard part to write it
Hmm.
is to understand that we are our own, stars in our own movies, and but the people that enter into our life are affected by our story, but affected within their own sphere, like within their own paradigm of how the world works.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
to be able to show that, a mother struggling so much with her own pain, her own past, now has a daughter with a past, and how does she handle that? And how is she not, how is she triggered by that over and
Hmm.
over again? And
Yeah.
then how does her daughter interpret those triggers, right? So, yeah, I found it very rewarding to try and piece all that out, but it's a lot more complicated to write. Waging war from your knees, I just get to tell you my story from my perspective, but in
Right.
fiction, you're
Uh,
really telling someone's story through a lot of different lenses.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I just, the longer I work in this publishing industry, the greater admiration I have for authors because, we walk through the library, we walk through the bookstore, we've got all these books on our shelves like you have behind you, and don't even really think about all of the work that goes into getting that book on the shelf. And it
Yes.
really is an incredible amount of work. So, how long were you working on this book?
So from genesis of idea to publication, it was about 10 years. Um, the sequel's not going to take that long. So I would say, yeah, gosh, full editing, like, yeah, it's been 10 years really from idea to now it's in my hands, which is just a whole nother thing. It takes time for these stories to percolate and
Yeah.
for you to get into the mind of the character, and all of that takes time. But there's so much more of the mechanics that come into play. And my poor husband, because I'll be stuck in my room for days and I'll come out and go, yes, it's done. He goes, it's done. Well, the first pass is done. It's done. Oh, it's done. Now it's editing. Oh, it's done? No, well, now it goes to book layout. Well, it's done. Well, it goes to Amazon. Like it's very hard to find people who understand how many yays you have to get to the end of the book.
So true, so true. But I think that that's not really that unusual for the first book, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then once you sort of figure out that writing process, and I think that when you're a creative brain, the gears start really
Mhm.
churning. Um, then it can move along faster after that first one.
Absolutely.
But I work with a lot of first time authors, and it does take a long time to get that first one done, oftentimes anyway.
Yes.
So yeah. And so what prompted you to write your books?
Well, all of my books have sort of this thread of Jesus Christ the Redeemer, right? That um, which Jesus did so well in my life, take what was dark, what was broken, and make it whole. All of my books have that thread. So Waging War from Your Knees was my own personal journey through that. And then the prayer journals that came out of that, even the Armed with Prayer and Sacred Fire that came out this year, as well as the Praying for Your Family book that came out this year, they're all tools to help women do the same journey that I did.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, with Blood Red Pure White, it was how do I express this ability of Christ to come in and heal something so broken in fiction? And
Mhm.
so I played a lot for a long time. Do I go under a pen name? Do I,
Right.
how do I do this? And it really came down to, no, actually, I'm telling the same story. I'm just using different modes to do it.
Right.
So, yeah, they all have that thread. They all have a thread of spiritual warfare, which
Mhm.
Waging War from Your Knees definitely lends pretty directly to that topic.
Mhm.
But if you're reading Blood Red Pure White, understanding spiritual warfare, you're going to see the threads in there. There's even a scene where it's sort of Amy is really at rock bottom, and you hear Michael praying for her, understanding that she's battling something way bigger than her,
Mhm.
and that there's this moment when something's broken, when something breaks through.
Right.
And so there is this thread of spiritual warfare through all of my work as well.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that. And it's so needed, because I think we can often just skate through the day or just struggle through whatever's going on in life um, without looking at it through that lens of the spiritual warfare is a reality. And we do have there is a spiritual realm and
Hmm.
we can be involved in affecting that. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you alluded to a sequel. Is that what's next for you?
Oh, yeah, that's sort of the book went out today, and so everybody's, so what's next? Oh, I need to breathe for a second. But that all that being said, my husband laughs at me because he's like, you never actually slow down enough to celebrate because you're always on the next thing. So there
Mhm.
are a few things coming up for my little world. The sequel is definitely it's very early first draft, but it's a good ways written. But I have other projects that are kind of competing for space. The sequel to Waging War will be coming out short. Well, okay, let's don't put timelines on it. I'm going to panic myself. Anyway, will be coming out hopefully this year, and that's on forgiveness.
Mhm.
Um, and then I've been in behind all of this, I run a ministry where we do forgiveness healing with women who have been through a great deal of trauma in their life. And so within that world, I'm creating tools for that all the time. And so I've got a workbook on the book of Genesis coming out, as well as another prayer journal and new line of day planners. So, it's sort of yeah, there's always something percolating, and there's always times in your work where you have to stop and walk away for a bit. And so um, writing tends to be a tiered thing where you're sort of got separate projects on the go because there's times when you need to, okay, I need to walk away from this project. I got to
Yeah.
give it a couple of months before I go back. And so then I swing in and I work in on something else. And then with the ministry, I've got 4 conferences that I'm putting on this year.
Wow.
So that is, a big piece of my time as well. So I don't know exactly what's coming next. It's all coming. And I just have to remember to, celebrate the littles because there is always more coming. There's always more that you're working on. So it's stopping and okay, got
Hmm.
something done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's very exciting and it's so wonderful to be on this journey with you. And so you can find Kathy on Instagram
Yes,
at
yes.
Kathy J. Jansen, right?
It's kathyj.jansen on Instagram and on YouTube. It's the same handle, so I'm pretty easy to find on both places. And then my website is www.kathyscall.org. And that's in a big flex too, but all of my books are on there. But mostly I just send everybody to Amazon, you know.
It's just lovely to talk to you as always, and I hope that you've all enjoyed our little chat. And
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you
okay,
so much.
thank you.